Hi there, Svava Brooks here. I wanted to create and send out a short message to you because I am on Thursday gonna do a webinar on child sexual abuse and most importantly prevention. How to talk to adults and our children about how to stay safe and how to keep our kids safe from childhood sexual abuse. And as I was preparing for the webinar and kind of getting the word out there that this is a free 90-minute interactive presentation where you as a parent or a caregiver will have an opportunity to ask me some questions and share with you maybe some fears and concerns about talking about it. I was thinking about what I could share with you all about the reason why I'm doing this. And I just kind of got quiet a little bit, and like I usually do when I get quiet, I put my hand on my heart to remind myself for the deep reason for why I do things. I am intentional about my life today and trying to stay true to my heart and my purpose and my passion. And I do have a very deep purpose and passion for educating people about child sexual abuse and why I'm encouraging you to join me. And this is the reason why. Because I know it's hard to talk about it. And the reason why I know it's hard to talk about it because I was silent for way too long about what was happening to me and happened to me in my childhood, in my home, where I did not feel safe going to bed, my whole childhood. Because I was sexually abused my whole childhood. I did not know the words to describe what was happening. I did not understand that what was happening wasn't a normal father-daughter interaction. And it caused me a lot of shame because I loved my daddy and I loved the things that I got to do and sometimes who I was with him. And so it was very confusing. And as I grew up with this shameful secret, thinking that it was my fault, that somehow I was making him do this to me, and that there was a reason that none of the adults around me were talking about this. And so I didn't have the words. I didn't know who to talk to because none of the adults around me modeled how to talk about it, what words to use to even express what was happening. No one talked to me about that I could speak up, that I could ask for help. So yes, I know how difficult it is to talk about it. And so when I started my healing journey, I couldn't even look my therapist in the eye. I mean, that's how hard it was. I wanted to crawl into a corner and disappear because I thought for sure they would reject me and tell me that I was a terrible human being and that I should never speak about this and just forget about it. But that wasn't what happened. So I did start to talk about it. And the more I talked about it, and the more I got to express my feelings and outrage and sadness as a little child, that no one protected me and that no one looked out for me and no one gave me the words that I needed to ask for help. That's the most powerless position that I was left in. So yes, I know how it feels on my own skin, that it is uncomfortable to talk about. But if I found the strength to talk about it as a survivor, I want to encourage you to find the strength in your heart of hearts to recognize that if you are an adult, parent, or caregiver, you need to find the courage to learn to talk about it. Because trust me, talking about how to prevent it is not even close to being as hard as it is to talk about it and deal with it after it has happened. Trust me on that one. And preventing child sexual abuse is, once you know what to do, actually a very empowered conversation, because you can recognize, like when you put your children, this is one of my favorite examples, when you put your kids in the car, you make sure you put that seatbelt on them, right? Because you know that it saves their lives. If you have to hit the brakes out there on the road, or God forbid someone hits you, that you have done whatever you can to protect your kids. It's just common sense now, right? The same thing needs to be considered when it comes to keeping our kids safe. We need to understand that wherever we leave our kids, no matter what good organization, family, church, institution, if there are children, they're going to want to be people who are going to misuse the trust and the facility to gain access to your child, unless you, as an educated and empowered parent and a caregiver, goes in there and asks the right questions, that you look those providers in the eye with an open heart, because you're not, assuming the worst or not accusing them over anything. No, you just want to go in there, and if they're going to provide services to your child, to ask them, hey, how do you make sure your staff is trained in recognizing situations where my child should never be alone in this institution or in this school or in this church with an adult or an older child? And just simply ask. And in asking, you are raising everybody's awareness up to the next level. And you ask them, how do they interview, supervise, train their staff? Again, for the same reasons. You're not accusing them. You're just asking a common sense questions. Like if you bought a car, you make sure the seatbelt is working, right? Exactly. So, and the same thing in my presentation on Thursday, I am going to be sharing with you some tools, some books that you can start to use with your child no matter how young they are. No, you're not going to scare your child, because age appropriately, we educate our children about their bodies, what we call the body parts, and that you empower them to know that only they can touch those parts, and only with your knowing and knowledge does the doctor touch those parts, and that they can say no to anybody's touch, hugs, tickles, and you train the whole family in validating those boundaries and hearing those no's, like, I'm stopping because you asked me to. So we model that behavior for our children. So I'm going to empower you as much as I can as a parent, from a parent, to really empower you to start asking those questions, to have those important conversations with all the adults in your family, because a high percentage of our children are abused by someone they know and trust. So then we also have to rein in and empower all the adults in my family, in your family. I've certainly done that in my family. You can ask my kids. And also that you will walk away with knowing what tools to get to start immediately talking to your kids. And if you want to bring this conversation to the places where your kids go to school, where they're practicing sports, then I'm going to give you evidence-based training that you can bring some further resources to them and say, hey, we may want to do this. 1 in every 4 girls and 1 in every 6 boys is sexually abused before they turn 18. This is a very important conversation for all of us to have, whether we are comfortable with it or not, whether it scares us or not. And from the bottom of my heart, I really hope that you find the courage to join me. And if this time or this day doesn't work for you, I hope I've inspired you to find presentation or training that you feel will empower you, because you are the person who can impact your child the most, because you're the closest to that child. And I'm actually going to show you a picture of circle of influence of where the people that are going to try gain access to our kids, where do they operate around our kids? Again, not to scare you, but to give you the facts so you can go and make an informed decision about starting to ask some important question, and you do it from a place of solid reasoning because you know the statistics, and you will feel supported by me and other organizations that are out there doing this important work about education, and you will walk away with resources that you can immediately start to engage your family, friends, children, to empower everybody. So, from the bottom of my heart, I do this work because I have come a long ways on my healing journey and now have the courage and the passion and the drive, because I know what happens to those that are abused. I've been there. And I work with survivors that have healed from abuse and are in the process of restoration, because yes, we can heal, we can restore. And so many of us surviving and thriving now are becoming voices, part of the movement to help to educate anybody who will listen, anyone out there who wants to make a difference to stop the cycle of violence in our families, because this is generational. It is the underlying reason for so many of our social issues and challenges in our culture. That's a whole nother chat. But anyways, this was way longer than I intended it to be, but I hope I connected with your heart. And as an educator, I have been giving this presentation for over 10 years. I love to do it because it really means a lot, not just for me to be giving words to the things that I was never able to speak about as a child, but to empower you and have you be the change that we all need to see out in the world. So join me. My website, educateforchange.com, educate4change.com, or email me, svava@educateforchange.com. Please share this video if you feel called to, and I hope to see you online, live, free webinar for 90 minutes, and we're gonna talk about how to keep our kids safe. All right, I'll see you there.